So we are in the towards the end of the second year of our FaceBase 2. And as you know, the FaceBase is an NIDCR-funded resource for the craniofacial research community. And the goals for FaceBase really is to promote research and collaboration in craniofacial development and also in molecular genetics and genomics, and also work to integrate the genomic and phenotype data from multiple species, and also include research on the developmental biology and genetics of a variety of craniofacial structures. Also, the FaceBase is to provide large data sets to members of the research community to use in their own research projects. I think we have come quite a long way. As you will see, we have just completed our second white paper for FaceBase, and that is currently under review after we received some critical comments from the reviewers. I think this is one of the new development for the FaceBase is the organization of the existing data. So I think you will, for those of you who have had a chance to go onto the Hub website, and you can see now the data has been organized based on the species, based on the gene expression pattern, and also looking at the different ways of imaging our study models. And I think this particular matrix I'm really proud of. Now you're looking at this 2-dimension with all the anatomical terms that we have come to an agreement, and then coupled with the embryonic stages. So now you can basically find any data that highlighted at the bottom, and then going into any specific stage or particular anatomical structure. And we were just talking about this recently, how to add a 3rd dimension to this, and then be able to accommodate the growing data sets within FaceBase. So in looking at, for this interaction between Spoke projects and the Spoke and the Hub, and also we're very grateful to the scientific leadership group for their guidance throughout this development of our FaceBase consortium, and then also working with each one of you within FaceBase, but also more importantly, with everyone within the craniofacial community, both here and also throughout the world. We constantly get feedbacks from people who come onto the FaceBase website and use the data. We want to get your feedback, and we want to get your help to develop this consortium into a resource that is useful for everyone. So I wanted to just at this last slide to get everyone to start thinking about the discussion topics that we're gonna go over tomorrow. Try to think about what data do users want to see from each project, as not as a data generator, but as a user. Think about what would you like to see as a user on FaceBase, and how do I make my data more useful for others? And how can the Hub and Spoke interaction help to create integrated data displays to better serve the community? After all, this is really a service, right? This is very different from individual R01s or any of the other type of grant funding. This is to provide data to serve the community. And also, what are some of the immediately achievable goals for us? I think that's something that we have been trying to focus on in the last couple years, and just think about what we can achieve and set the milestones, and then evaluate constantly whether we're meeting these milestones. But more importantly, because we're all here So this is really a great opportunity for us to think about how we can interact with each other, how we can set up the stage for others to use our data. So that's something that I wanted to share with all of you. With that, I would like to invite our program director, Steve Skolnick, to come to the stage and then share with us from the funding agency's perspective what are the marching orders for us.
Thanks for the introduction, Yang. Before I start, I'd like to thank Chris Williams for all the work she's done in this, and Trevor and his colleagues for all the hard work they've done to organize this and to get us here to this very attractive campus and to clean up the weather for us, which is nice. This is the annual update, so I try to figure out what in the world I'm supposed to update. So I'll just reiterate something that Yang already said, but it bears repeating almost endlessly. The whole purpose of FaceBase is to provide the community with the types of data sets that you can't write an R01 to get. If you write an R01, you all know what happens if you write an R01 to generate a lot of data without some hypothesis or some model, and that doesn't go well. So FaceBase is there to provide the data so that others can use those data for hypothesis-driven research. And it's very important that we keep that in mind. We're also here, as Yang said, to develop those tools and data sets, try to work towards a systems biology level understanding of craniofacial development. Right now, everything's pretty siloed. People work on their own genes or their own pathways, and we'd like to bring things together in a more organized way, and I think the large data are the way to do that. So today's webcast is in part for us to talk to each other, to understand what's going on in each project. It's also to tell the community what's out there and what data sets that they are in a position to take advantage of. I'll talk a little bit as the part of the NIDCR update on additional funding opportunities that might be relevant both to this group and to the people out there in television land. And I'll also talk about something called the Gabriella Miller Kids First Initiative that I think is of interest to this group. So first thing is we still have this funding opportunity announcement that's there for people to download FaceBase data and use it for their own analyses. It's an R03, so it's a small grant, but it's not the usual small R03. It's quite a bit more money. And it allows people, and we have some of these grants already issued, to download various types of FaceBase data and use them in their own analytical pipelines to generate data, and those data will be shared back with the community through FaceBase. So that's one thing that's right there. All right. For the informatics crew, there are lots of informatics people in FaceBase. Keep your eye on what comes out of the Big Data to Knowledge initiative at NIH, because there are lots of different funding opportunity announcements that are issued from time to time that may be relevant for software development. There are also for training as well. So if you have a training grant in your craniofacial biology program and want to introduce some big data aspects to that, there are opportunities for augmenting your funding that way. Now, this Gabriella Miller Kids First was one of those things that fell deus ex machina from Congress. Congress actually got together and agreed on something. And Gabriella Miller was a young woman who came down with eventually a terminal cancer, who wrote to her congressional representatives saying that we really need more research for pediatric disorders. And they listened, and they bestowed upon NIH a certain amount of money to be spent every year over the course of 10 years to facilitate pediatric research. And that research covers both structural birth defects and pediatric cancers. That may seem like a somewhat odd or arbitrary combination to you. It turns out that the money was appropriated for the NIH Common Fund. Things for the Common Fund have to be trans-NIH, pediatric cancers or NCI. So they worked in the structural birth defects. That's immediately relevant to our group. What they're doing is whole genome sequencing of established cohorts. There'll be more initiatives to start. And our cleft palate community, being consummately organized and cooperative, led by Mary Marazita, put together their cohort. In fact, they had more subjects, more trios in their cohort than everybody else combined, I think. And a large number of those are undergoing whole genome sequencing. Those data will be available for analysis once they're in dbGaP. So keep your eye on that. There'll also be initiatives looking for more cohorts and initiatives for analysis of the cohort data. So it's directly relevant to our community. And some more things related to getting some more money for your group. If you're looking for training in genetics and genomics, this first initiative here, let's see if I got a cursor, is a K-18. It's a short-term training initiative. Emily, who's not here, Emily Harris, my boss. If you're interested in that, you can talk to Lynn King, head of our training branch, or to Emily. We still have this R01 FOA for looking at structural birth defects. There is an initiative run by Emily to try to develop a genetics knowledge base for disorders that are not as well studied. We have tremendous depth in certain small number of disorders, clefting, craniosynostosis. There are a lot of other things in craniofacial biology we don't have a lot of depth in. This is a mechanism that's designed to do that. And we also have this other FOA for secondary data analysis. This is the one we cribbed the FaceBase one from, except this doesn't require having FaceBase data. It's any data set that you want to do secondary or analysis of data set you get, let's say, from dbGaP. And keep in mind that all of your genomic data are now subject to this enhanced genetic data sharing policy. The NIH is trying to maximize the amount of benefit we get for each dollar spent on sequencing and things like GWAS. So those are supposed to be shared. So you don't sit on them forever. GWAS has been subject to rules like this for a while. This now extends to model organisms, et cetera. So the idea is to get maximum bang for the buck for all the efforts that we're paying for. And at that point, I'll turn it over to the group. Any questions? I'll be around. Thank you.